Hello? Marina Goldman, how did you get this number? Well, weren't you satisfied with being the special guest star last week? I suppose there's no way to block someone on a rotary phone, is there? Yes, you heard correct. Yes, next week's episode will be the last one of the season. Oh no, I'll be back and better than ever. All right, Marina, I've got to go. Yes, all right. I'll talk to you later. Don't call me back. Bye-bye. I'm just going to leave this off the hook, just in case she decides to call back. Cheers. Anyway, welcome to Quarantini Cocktails in Song with Mr. Drag. I'm your host, Mr. Drag. Yes, and this week, audience, we are in the landscape format. Isn't it exciting? Yes. And yes, you did hear correctly. Next week's episode will be the season finale of season 1 of Quarantini. You know, I've enjoyed every moment of doing this for you, but it's a lot more work than I'm used to. You know, even back in the vaudeville days, you know, Carl and I had a very plush dressing room, and aide de camp who would refill my martini and refill Carl's milk, you know, and do any odds and ends we needed them to do. But here in this quarantine, you know, I'm having to do everything myself. I'm having to refill my drink. I'm having to shoot this television program. I'm having to dress myself. I'm having to style my own wigs, hair. So your mister needs a little break. A hiatus, a sabbatical, if you will, you know, and that way I can research more delicious cocktails for you and perhaps line up some special guests for next season. You know, but don't worry, I have some very special guests who are coming for next week's episode. It's sure not to disappoint. Cheers! You know, dear audience, Cinco de Mayo just passed us by. That is a Mexican holiday that commemorates their victory over the French at that one battle. But I'm sure you were all celebrating it in your quarantined abodes, drinking copious amounts of margaritas and eating nachos and salsa and guacamole. Very empiric of you. You know, I was in Mexico when the French invaded. I was very good friends with Benito Juarez, the then president. We had met years earlier when he was in the seminary. My sisters, Kat and Didi, and I did a tour of the Mexican seminaries in a show called Las Tres Leches. We're all very pale. Anyway, the seminarians loved it, and in fact, I think we convinced a few of them that they were making the wrong choice going into the priesthood. And that's what happened with Benito and I. You know, Benito was on the fence about becoming a priest, and I just gave him that little push over it that he needed. Yes, well, he went on to an illustrious career as a lawyer, a Supreme Court justice, and then the president of Mexico. Well, until Napoleon III decided he wanted to add Mexico to his collection, just like his uncle Napoleon I. That little man. He was just like a small child, you know, trying to collect all his toys. Coincidentally, he was about the height of a small child as well. I remember at court, for fun, when he wasn't looking, I would put his chapeau on the highest shelf. You have not lived until you've seen a tiny dictator on his tippy toes trying to get his chapeau down. Those were the days. Cheers. Well, unfortunately, even though Benito and his army won that battle, they lost the war to the French, and the French took over for a little while. But the Mexicans are a very resilient people, and they continued to fight back until they got their country back. You know, it makes me wonder about all of the horrible things that people like to say about Mexicans in this country. You know, how they want to deport them and how they want to lock them up in cages. But they're perfectly fine with them bussing their tables and cleaning their homes, and they're very ecstatic about going to the taqueria in the strip mall and eating their weight in tacos, burritos, and chimichangas. Kind of a double standard, isn't it? Anyway, years later, I went back to Mexico City after Benito's death. The National Palace had constructed a museum of some of his belongings. I invited my good friend and well-known unibrowed artist Frida Kahlo to accompany me. I'll tell you that story another time. Anyway, we walked in and I was taken aback. They had reconstructed all of his rooms down to the tiniest detail. I mean, there was the dining room where he ate and I drank. And there was the study where he worked and I drank. And there was the living room where he relaxed and I drank. I drank a lot in his home. Cheers. But seeing that, it made me realize the spirit of Benito Juarez is still alive today, and if we only took some time out of our less than busy quarantine days to look beyond ourselves, imagine what we could see. and what could inspire us for our cocktails. So this week's cocktail is the Juarez. You know, Benito himself was a cocktail connoisseur. He was often making me beverages out of the fruits and vegetables and other assorted plants of Mexico. Once, he made me this very interesting tea out of mushrooms that the Aztecs called God's flesh. Now, audience, I'm not one for a non-alcoholic drink, but this tea was delightful. By the time I had finished it, the sky had opened, the foliage was enveloping me in its chlorophyllic embrace, and I believe I saw the face of God. Coincidentally, she looks just like Oprah. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to make a cocktail. So, what you are going to need for the Juarez is 2 ounces of mezcal, or tequila if you're cheap, not the same, but whatever. 1 ounce of the sweet vermouth, and 2 dashes of the Peychaud's bitters. Now, pour it in a shaker with ice, and as always, audience, shake vigorously. Yes, shake vigorously, shake vigorously, shake, shake, shake like you are on the dance floor of Studio 54 with Liza Minnelli and Betty Ford. And then you're going to strain it into your glass. This week, I am using a Nick and Nora glass, albeit a bit more square. Why don't we call it a Dick and Dora glass? That sounds like a squarer couple, doesn't it? Now, you can garnish with a brandied cherry, or, like I am, with a lemon twist. And I want to say thank you to my conocero de verduras, which is my boucher de légumes in Spanish. Y listo, estoy presente, el Juarez. He is into superstition, black cats and voodoo dolls. I feel a premonition that boy's going to make me fall. He'll make you take your clothes off and go dancing in the rain. He'll make you live his crazy life. He'll take away your pain like a bullet to your brain. Upside, inside out, he's living la vida loca. He'll push and pull you down, living la vida loca. Now, come on, shake your body, baby, do that conga. No, you can't control yourself any longer. Feel the rhythm of the music getting stronger. Don't you find it till you try and do that conga beat. Everybody, gather round now. Let your body feel the heat. Don't you worry if you can't dance. Let the music move your feet. Feel the rhythm of the islands and that sugar cane so sweet. If you want to do the conga, you've got to listen to the beat. Come on, shake your body, baby, do that conga. No, you can't control yourself any longer. Feel the rhythm of the music getting stronger. Don't you find it till you try and do that conga beat. Oh, I want to thank you all for joining me this week on Quarantini, Cocktails and Song with Mr. Drag. I'm Mr. Drag. Your drink this week was the Juarez. As always, dear audience, stay safe, stay healthy, and practice your social distancing. And if you can donate to the Venmo in the credits, please do so. I will see you next week for the season finale of Quarantini. But until then, dear audience, cheers!